Hey guys, today we are going to add our follower rods into our Automata box. Last time we added all of our cams into the box, and just to double check, we should be able to animate our Automata box and we should get motion on all of them except for the circular cam, although technically it is rotating because it's circular. Everything on it is the exact same, so we shouldn't see any changes. So today we're going to put the follower rods through these holes on the top, and they'll be able to move up and down. But first, we should probably make some follower rods. So down here, we're going to go to the plus sign, and we're going to create a part studio. Slide it over here, and I'm going to rename this follower parts. And we are going to make 3 parts in this part studio. So I'm going to create a sketch on the top view, and I'm just going to make a circle. And this circle is going to be 5 30-seconds. Now it's 5 30-seconds because it's 1 30-second less than 6 30-seconds, which is the size of the hole that this will be going into. So it'll be just a little bit smaller for tolerance. So that's a very small hole, but there it is. So we'll go ahead and finish the sketch. And then we're going to extrude this guy up to a height of 4 inches. And that is basically our follower rod. I'm going to rename this part and call it pointed follower, although I guess we should put the point on it. We can do that in just a second. I'm going to go ahead and edit the appearance real quick, and we're going to make it, let's make it this like slightly yellow color, because this will be out of wood. Okay, so we're going to do one other thing to this. We're going to use the chamfer tool to put a point on the very end of this. So down here, I'm going to click on this face, and we're going to set the distance to be a very specific number. So it's actually going to be half of the diameter of this. So our diameter before was 5 30-seconds. So this is 2.5 30-seconds. I don't like combining decimals and fractions, but it's the easiest way. Okay, so that's going to end up looking like this. So we've got just a little point on the end of our follower rod. And this point is going to be what will be contacting the end of the cams in our Automata box. So this little point will be the part that rides on the cam. Okay, so this is actually done. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to make another part here. We're going to make the shaft for our cam. So we're going to create a sketch, and I'm just going to draw it up here on the top of this rod. It doesn't matter because it's going to be a separate part, but I'm going to go ahead and make a circle, and it's going to be centered on the origin, and I'm going to make this have a diameter that's dimensioned to be just a little bit bigger than the other rod. So I'm actually going to set it to 0.005. So that's just a little bit bigger than the shaft that goes through it. Alright, then we're going to make a second circle. And that one is going to have a diameter of 1/2 inch. Okay, and then we're going to extrude that to be a 1/2 inch thick. Doesn't matter which direction, it's going to be a new part. So that will be the shaft collar, which goes on the top just to kind of hold it in place. So we'll call that the collar. I like that color, so we'll stick with that. Okay, we're going to make another sketch here because there's one more part that we're going to make. So I'm going to create a new sketch on the top view. My grid's back. Okay, and I'm just going to make a center point rectangle just over here. It's going to have a height of 1/4 inch, and it's going to have a width of 1/2 inch. And it's fine that that is blue because we've got the dimensions of that, and we don't really, it doesn't matter how far away from the origin it is, so we're just going to keep it just like that. Then we're going to extrude this to be the same height as the bottom of our point down here. So that number was 2.5 divided by 32. So these two heights should line up. And I'm going to rename this part. This is actually the shoe of our follower. And I'm going to change the color of this. I want it to be something different, so I'm going to set it to be this kind of more orangish color, just so that we've got some contrast between these two parts. Alright, one more thing we're going to do is we're going to add a 1/4 inch fillet to the bottom of this. And what that's going to do is it's going to round the bottom of our shoe. So I'm going to set it to a 1/4 inch radius. And you can see now that it just kind of rounds it off so that it's perfectly round shape there. Okay, so those are the 3 parts that we need. Make sure that you have named them so that when we drop them into the assembly, we know what they are. Okay, so let's go back to our assembly tab here. And we're going to insert these parts. So here are my follower parts. I'm just going to drop them in. Now I do need 6 of these, so I'm just going to drop it in 6 times, just in the order that they are here. So we're going to kind of do this in 3 parts. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add these shaft collars in, and then we'll deal with adding the followers, and then we will add the shoes as the very last thing. The shoes aren't really going to do anything in the assembly, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Alright, so let's go ahead and fasten these collars on. These are just going to be fasten mates directly over the center of these follower holes. So just going to do that real quick. First I got to drag these a little bit. Let's just put them all in the same place. Okay. So we're going to mate that back face to that part right there. And then just rinse and repeat 6 times. Whoops. Uh-oh. Try that again. Well, I mated 2 of them in the same place. Oopsies. Mate. Next. Somebody has a very loud car. Alright. So now those are all mated in place. And I just used fastened mates for those. Okay. To add our follower rods, we're going to use a different mate than we normally have. But first we need to actually put them into these shaft collars. So we're going to use a slider mate to do that. So I'm going to slider mate these guys. And I'm just going to make it so that this top is mated with the top on the rod. Now we're going to need to apply an offset, or sorry, a limit so that these don't go all the way down through the cams. So I'm just going to play with some numbers here. I want it to come up maybe 3 inches. Let's see what that looks like. We want to go the other way. So let's do -3 inches. What's that look like? So it looks like that's my high end now. Oops. This is my high end now, and I need to apply a lower limit. So we don't want it to ever come out. So I think -3 for all of these will work. We just need to figure out kind of what the low end is going to be. So let's set that to maybe be -1. Is that going to be low enough? It's going to be plenty low enough. Let's try -2. Actually, that's going to be a problem for the other ones, but I think it's okay for most of these. So let's go ahead and set these, and we'll use this value for all of our mates except for the heart and snail cam. Alright, so we're just going to rinse and repeat. So slider mate inside there, limits -3 to -2. Just double check that that's right. Looks okay. Okay, slider mate. This face to that end, limits -3, -2. Double check. I'm just going to go ahead and slide all these up out of the way for now. Alright. A couple more. Mate. Limit. -3. -2. think we need to reapply the fasten mate here. Let's try that again. There we go. Alright, so just making sure that it's where it's supposed to be. It is. Okay, for these last two, we're going to set a slightly lower limit because they actually go lower than that. So this same -3, but now I'm going to set this to be -1.5. And we'll see kind of where that puts us. That still might be really low, but I don't think it's ever going to get that low. And you'll see why in a minute. So let's just do that for both of these. So we'll do -3 and -1.5. Okay, so all my sliders are up, or all my followers are up. You can see where they touch. It gets kind of close with that eccentric cam, but I think we'll be okay. If we need to adjust it, we can do that later. Okay, here comes the fun part. So now we're going to use a mate that we've never used before, and that is called a tangent mate. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow the tip of this follower to ride on this edge of the cam. Now, this can get a little bit fickle. This can get a little bit fickle with our cams on the right side, and we'll talk about that in a second. Alright, so let's go ahead and mate these parts. So the tangent mate is up here. It's this little ball with 2 arrows. So we're going to use this, and the first thing we're going to click is we're going to zoom in, and we're going to click on the very point of our pointed follower. Then we're going to click on this surface of the cam. And you should see the cam pop right down and lay on it. So we're going to click the green check, and for each of these mates, we're going to zoom out and we're going to go to our revolute. We just want to make sure that this thing still works. And it looks like it's not wanting to work. So let's try that again. Pull the follower up. Tangent mate. Let's try that again. Revolute. Let me mess with this for a second. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. I realized that there was a problem with the order that I had applied some mates. It won't affect you because this is a different version of the file. Anyway, so I have applied the tangent mate to the circle cam, and I'll go ahead and do that again. So tangent to here and here, and then we're just going to double check that with our revolute. And we should not get an error. It should work. You can see that it's just sitting there, which is exactly what it's supposed to do. So let's make one where that's not the case. Let's work on the pair cam. So I'm just going to rotate this a little bit. So we're tangent mate to the point, to the body. It should move. And then we can use our revolute to test. And we should get some smooth motion out of that. And we do. Let's go ahead. That was the eccentric cam, not the pair cam. Let's do the pair cam though. So the pair cam, tangent mate, point to the body. If you get an error when you apply this mate, it might be because you're picking a weird face. So just make sure that you try it a couple of times. Okay, so that seems to be working fine. Let's go ahead and do our next mate. So we're going to use tangent mate to this surface, and this is our hex cam. Green check. So we'll revolute, animate, double check, make sure it works, no errors. And you can see it's riding on that just the way it's supposed to. Alright, heart cam, tangent mate, point to a surface, green check, revolute to check. And that seems to be working fine as well. So then we'll do our last one here, which is to tangent mate our snail cam. And this is the one that's sometimes fickle. I found that I had to add a fillet to these 2 edges for this to work. So if you haven't done that, I can help you to do that in class. But now, when we animate it, all of our cams work the way that they're supposed to. So I'll put this on loop so we can kind of sit back and watch how this works. So you can see that as these rotate, we get different kinds of linear, or well, reciprocating motion out of these cams as a result. Except for the circular cam, which doesn't do anything, which is to be expected. There's no change in the surface there. So, the last thing we need to do here is we need to put the shoes on our followers. So those will just be fastened mated. So we're just going to fastened mate them to this part right here and connect it just like that. So you should connect all of yours like that as well. So I will go ahead and do that on mine. Just do a bunch of clicks. Oops. Careful where you click. Check. 3 to go. Check. Whoops. Why are they way down here? Okay. Click the part. Zoom in. Green check. And there's the last one. Okay, so just to double check, we can always go in and we can animate this one more time just to make sure that everything looks the way that it's supposed to. Put it on loop. It's going to take a minute to do this, especially in your Chromebooks, but once it works, then it should do exactly what it's supposed to do. And we'll be using this to do some analysis on how our cams work, but we should see that those shoes are sitting smoothly on top of our followers here, or sorry, on the bottom of our followers and on top of the cams. So once you get this far, we will continue to work on this in class. I'll see you in the next video.